Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be making letters for children to learn their reading. Now, the way I'm going to make the letters will incorporate all of the learning styles. The first learning style, a visual. There will be a picture on the card that tells the child the movement that goes along with it. So for example, one of our letters today will be M, and the sound that M makes is mm. So we're going to make the movement that goes along with it when we introduce this letter. The picture of the little face on the is going to look like they are thoroughly enjoying some delicious food, so that when the child sees the letter they can understand by looking at it and by doing the action that that is what that letter says. So we'll see the we'll say and then we'll move on. We will also be discussing the way that I have been teaching my children from the very beginning. So my oldest is 15 and we started with him when he was 4. And it was a very Montessori way of teaching. And if you're not familiar with Montessori, that's okay. It's a fairly easy way of introducing any new material to your child. So what you do is you take 3 letters. We will always introduce the letter sound before the letter name. There are only 5 letters that say their name, and those are the vowels. So the child will much more be able to use the sounds than the names, and they can identify. You can still show them what the letter looks like. However, when you introduce the letter to them, you will use the sound the letter makes. So you pick 3 letters, you introduce their sounds. The first lesson that we'll be working with once we do this DIY, so my next video, we will be introducing a, and t. With those letters, once we introduce them, we'll lay them on the table. Or we'll have the option with the DIY that we'll be doing today. We can put them on a magnet board. Lot of action. So I would say find the and try to keep it away from mom. And they would run and I'd run after them. But it was a way to make it exciting and interesting. However, also to follow that order. So first, introduce. Second, identify. Which one of these says, and then you can begin a game, or however. I know that I have many creative viewers so that you'll figure it out on your own. And I also will be giving some tips for games throughout this time as well. So, first, introduce. Second, identify. And the third that lets you know that they've really got it, they really concretely understood what that letter sound is to produce. So find a letter and tell me what it says. Okay, so then they're not only using kind of the multiple choice of a test, they are being able to give you the answer because it's in their brain. So we will be doing all of that throughout these video series of the letters, and I am also going to tackle the older children. So a little bit of my story is that My first two children learned very easily how to read. My first, in fact, was reading at about a third grade level when he was in preschool. So they learned it quickly. I did not have to do a whole lot to support them. We did a lot of games, a lot of active activities. However, they did not need a whole lot of extra support. They did not need to understand the different spelling structures, the different phonograms, why this word says it this way and this word says it a different way, why there are 6 different sounds for the phonogram O-U-G-H. There are so many things in the English language that I did not even understand because I also read easily. So the first two children were easy to teach. Then my third child came along, and he was in kindergarten when I had twins in the NICU. So I was not able to pour into him as much as I had the older two children. However, on top of that, we discovered in first, second, third grade that he was really struggling to read. He would learn the letters, but he wouldn't be able to apply or understand intrinsically the spelling patterns, much like my older two had already done. So I dove deep into understanding why children struggle to read, how we can come beside them, how we can support them. And in doing so, I learned very much about Orton Gillingham. I also learned about some occupational therapy that really helps to connect the right and the left brain so that the child can do the work of reading. It takes your full brain. And so the more connected, the more neurons are firing, the better the child has a chance of reading. Oftentimes, children that struggle to read struggle with visual problems. So the visual way of learning does not work for them like it does for a child that does not struggle. So my oldest two did not really need much more than the visual. I used some tricks, some things that I learned while I went to school to be a teacher, like movement, cements, music, cements. So if you're trying to memorize things, add in movement, add in music. It's always going to make it stick for that child, regardless. Anyway, I researched. I did a lot of Orton Gillingham. We spent a lot of time on the trampoline with sidewalk chalk, making different phonograms and having him jump to them and tell me what are the sounds that that phonogram makes, because many of them in the English language make different sounds depending on the word. So we dove deep into that, and I feel I've learned a lot. So I'm also going to tackle the older children that might be struggling to read. The amazing thing about Orton Gillingham is that it works for children that struggle to read, but it also works for children that don't. And so with that discovery, a lot of the schools, when they're teaching children to read, will use the Orton Gillingham approach because it kind of collects everybody and puts them on the same playing field. So I will be tackling some different approaches. I've gotten my phonograms together. I used an amazing program with my two middle children. So now my 9-year-old is kind of walking that path. I'm not as anxious as I was with my current 11-year-old because he at this moment is reading at level. So it worked. We got through. I know what to do in this place. We use a lot of movement. We use a lot of ways to connect movement, vision, hearing, trying to use the entire brain, tactile. We're doing what we can to move while we're doing it, but also to have a movement for each phonogram, so that when we go through and we play our games or we're practicing spelling, I can easily give a physical cue without having to give a verbal cue. And this is also what we're learning through therapy with my 5-year-old who has cerebral palsy. So I've tried to take and pick things as I learn about the brain more, which is so interesting to me, and make it work for each one of my children and meeting them where they are. So that was a very long-winded explanation. You'll learn if you stick around for our channel that this is how we do things. But I really am passionate about understanding the brain and trying to help whatever child is coming to you with that part of their brain so that they can learn to read. Once a child can read, the world opens up to them and they can learn anything because they can read about it. So it's very important to me that my children read, and with the struggles that we've faced, this has been a way to overcome them. So I'm hoping to offer that to you. So today I'm going to first lay out what the supplies are that we need. I will have them linked as well in the description. And then I'm going to show you how to make this, because my up and coming kindergartners, I mentioned my 5-year-old with cerebral palsy has some, well, they're twins, so it's he and his twin, but my child with cerebral palsy has struggles with fine motor skills. So I had come up with an idea for my autistic nephew to use for a visual schedule and make it so that he at 2 years old would be able to pick up and put things independently. So I'm going to do the same thing now as I'm thinking about my up and coming kindergartners, but it will work for any child regardless of their abilities. So we're going to make the cards today, and then as we go throughout our time together, we'll continue to put out more content about how to teach each letter, how to use all of the body parts and all of the parts of your brain to really get the neurons firing and get your child understanding and excited about reading. Okay, so for this project, you need paint chips. I got these from the Walmart paint section. So paint chips, a Phillips head screwdriver, wooden squares. These are 3 inches by 3 inches. I found that these will work the best with the next item here. 1 red writing utensil and 1 blue writing utensil. In Montessori, they make a distinction by making blue for consonants and red for vowels. Knobs. These knobs came with a screw to attach, so the knob will go on front and the screw will go on the back. Some way to connect the paint chip to the wooden square. I have here double-sided tape. You can also use a spray glue of some sort, but those are the items that you will need to do this project. Now, because the paint chips are larger than the square, you're also going to need a pair of scissors. When you make this, I also suggest leaving space because you don't want to have to put the screw for the knob through the paper. The first thing I suggest that you do is take your card, your paint chip, and cut it to fit onto your wooden square. One way to do this is by folding it along the line of the wooden square. Once you fold it, you should cut. So that you have a square about this size. then you choose your letter. As I had mentioned before, typically the way that we introduce the letters is to start with M-A-T. So I will write the letter M, and then I will give it a little face to make it look like it is eating something very delicious. So that when we introduce this letter, you can see it's got its little tongue out. I think of the emojis when I think about making these letters, the different emojis that tell you what somebody might be thinking. I am an overuser of emojis. I'm not sure about you. Let me know in the comments below what you do with emojis. But we're gonna think emojis and we're gonna make a face for your letter. So this is the first step. Then you're going to take that letter and take your adhesive, whatever way you're going to attach that letter to the wood. For me, it's double-sided tape. We had, funny story, we had a little moment. I had purchased Gorilla Glue spray adhesive for this project. We've done it, like I said, I made this already for my nephew with autism. And it was left in a place where my small children could get a hold of it. I'm sure you probably see where this is going. And when it was left in that space, my 5-year-old decided it would be a good idea to spray it in my 2-year-old or 3-year-old's hair. He's 3 now. He recently turned 3. So he sprayed it in his hair, and so now Timothy, my 3-year-old, has a big, nice, hard spot in his hair that we're waiting to grow a little bit longer so we can just buzz it right out. So you use your adhesive. This is why I'm using the tape, because the spray adhesive is no longer in this home. So you use your tape or your spray adhesive. If you get spray adhesive, keep it out of the hands of small children. Learn from my mistake. And attach to the wooden square. Then you're going to take your wooden knob, and in it there should be the wooden knob as well. Now I may have to dump these out. So you'll end up with a screw and a knob. You'll take the screw on the back, so where the letter is not, and start to kind of use your hands, use a little elbow grease, and make a hole in the back so that you can attach it to the knob on the front. So I started it off. Now I'm going to use my screwdriver to finish it. And you just put the knob right in the front and kind of work with both your hands as a team. And I may need to have it a little bit further through. See, I can't remember. It was kind of muscle memory by the end of it the last time. Whoops. So we have it in, and then we want the knob to basically be on the other side. Now, in order to make these magnetic, I also have a magnetic sheet of paper that you can cut down to size. I recommend also with that to make it a little smaller than 3 by 3 because you want to save it and use it as best you can. But as you do this, you want this to be as flat as possible because you don't want it to get caught on things. So there we have our knob and our letter so that a child should be able to pick it up, just as a knob on a puzzle makes it easier to pick up and put down. And then we will be placing the magnet next. So here we have our magnet paper. On the back is a sticker back so that it already has adhesive. Once you cut it, you just pull the sticker away and you can add it. So again, like I said, I'm not gonna make it the full size of the 3x3 because these are fairly expensive, not crazy, but enough that we want to use just enough to make it work, but not too much where you're out of it in just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is put the magnet right over the screw. So there's not really anything dangerous for little one to get a hold of when they're playing with this or when they're learning. So there's our magnet. We can attach it to a magnet board, and there's our letter, and we're ready to start teaching. So here I am making the next 2 letters of the next teaching video. Timmy is hanging on me, as is his norm. I'm sitting in between the 2 rooms. Timmy used to, when we first moved here, sleep in the twins' room. However, the 3 of them together is not a good dynamic for sleep. It's a little too energetic for them to get any sleep whatsoever. So I am trying to get some videoing in while sitting in between the 2 rooms so that they're not going back and forth and using that energy to get into all sorts of trouble. So, and he's sitting behind me as he often does when I'm trying to get a moment to myself. It doesn't typically happen in this house. So here he is asking lots of questions about what I'm doing, asking if he can help, asking about the letters. I am thrilled to get them involved in the making of these things because it does get them a little bit more excited about the process of learning reading. I do typically struggle a little bit with boys learning to read. They just don't want to sit still. So I've had to learn throughout the years, teaching lots of boys, lots of little busy boys, that I need to have it be active. I need to have them be fully involved with their whole body in order to get their mind engaged and them learning. So he is just enjoying being a part of making these. We're going over the letter A as it makes the 3 sounds. So it has a superhero cape, and I'm talking to him a little bit about the sounds that the A makes, as I will mention more in the next video. The good things about the vowels is that they work hard, they work extra hard. They're super letters. So with the A, I'm not only going to introduce its short sound, I'm going to introduce all 3 sounds that the A makes, which are A, ah. And this is part of the Orton Gillingham way of teaching or style of teaching. So I am talking to Timmy about that and showing him the different sounds that the A makes and talking to him about the T, which is also what I will be showing coming up. I will show you the 2 finished products because at the end of this video and beginning the next video, you will be using those to teach your child 3 letters. And the other really exciting thing about this process is that once they have 6 letters, they can start to put together, make, and read words. So here we are again, finishing up the process, and I will show you the finished product here in a moment.
What is it got on? No, what is this?
That says oh, it has a cape because it's a super letter.
Mommy, why do you have scissors?
And here is the letter T that we're saying is tough guy T. He's got muscles. I am not an artist, as you can tell, but you don't need to be as long as you can communicate what that letter says through that picture and your child is able to see it, which you get the picture from that. And we may end up moving towards using clip art that I find online. But at the moment, this is working, and we will just play it by ear as we move forward from here. And I'm showing right here my project box that I used. I love the idea of keeping everything that I need in a box so that I can do it while I'm sitting in between two kids' rooms and waiting for them to go to bed. This allows me to do what I need. And here is the letter A with the superhero cape, showing that it makes lots of sounds. And there is our tough guy T, showing that it makes the sound that it makes. I look forward to teaching together with you soon. Thanks so much for staying to the end. Today's hot tip with the Hot Mess Mom is to prepare in advance vegetables that you can chop. I know this sounds easy, but it really makes a huge difference when it comes to preparing. I have recently started canning. I've made some jams, and today I was cutting up peppers and onions for salsa. So I learned how to can salsa as well. One of the things that I'm learning in canning is that once you start some timers, either for the cooking process or the water bath canner, you can't stop in the middle. You have to kind of finish it to completion. However, if you can chop and prepare as much as you can, you shorten that time spent over a hot stove and in the kitchen. So I was chopping up peppers, I was chopping up onions. I will link in the description below the recipe that I found. I spent probably entirely too much time looking for that. However, I wanted to get just the right recipe. I really love farm fresh tomatoes in the summer and wanted to really capture that fresh, delicious taste that comes with picking them or going to the farmer's market as someone with a black thumb such as myself does. So I was excited to find a really good one and make delicious salsa that hopefully we will enjoy for the weeks and months to come. And here I am speeding it up with my little Hannah banana on my back. This is the only way at this moment to get things done because she is quite the crawler. So now I'm putting peppers into the bag. I thought I had more of the melamine bowls, but I do not. I have all of my tomatoes in my Instant Pot insert. It was like the perfect size for 25 pounds of tomatoes. So there you go. If you ever are cutting and peeling 25 pounds of tomatoes, the Instant Pot liner is the way to go. So I've got another bag. I'm going to finish up with the peppers. I'm going to do the onions. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and will join me again with the hot tips with the Hot Mess Mom because I am learning. I have not arrived, and I don't think I will arrive until the day I finally meet Jesus. So I, at this point, am happy to learn alongside of you and share any tips I learn along the way because with this